so much for joining this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, and for me to have this opportunity to go a little deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam and share something for my own benefit. Kindly, I pray for all of your blessings for me to speak something meaningful and which is glorifying Krishna and his devotees. Thank you. We'll begin with the prayers from Srimad, prayers glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam, and then some prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the prayers by Sanatana Goswami in glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll begin with them. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikpadha, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidvantroditaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, Paramananda Pathaya, Prema Varshaksharayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostute, Madeka Bandhu Matsangin, Madguru Manmahadana, Mannishtaraka Madbhagya, Madananda Namostute, Asadhu Sadhu Tadayin, Ati Nicho Shatakara, Hanamuncha Kadachinmam, Premna Hritkanthayospura. Now we'll recite the invocation prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, seeking the blessings of all the acharyas and the process of devotion service itself, which is all benedicting. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye Shushrusho Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kadharuchi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirthani Shevana Shinvatam Swakadha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti sudutsatam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki तधारजस्तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्चये चेत एतैर् अनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशया क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दुष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Krishna, welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. As this is 1 hour class and I don't have so much realizations on these two verses, so I thought if we can take a quick 6 to 7 minutes and recite Queen Kunti's prayers, which the whole section we just completed. So this is just to seek the blessings of these devotees and to recite the prayers so we can get purified. Kindly forgive me if anyone feels it's not relevant, just out of my own inspiration. Okay, so these prayers are from text 18 to 43, 26 of them. The translations and the verses both are beautiful, but just with time, we'll just recite the Sanskrit. Kunti Uvacha Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakrite Param Alakshyam Sarva Bhutanam Antarbahir Avasthitam Maya Javanika Channam Agnadhokshajamavyayam न लक्ष्यसे मूढ़दृशा नटो नाट्याधरो यथा तथा परमहंसानां मुनीनाम् अमलात्मनां भक्तियोगाविधानार्थं कथं पश्येमहि स्त्रिया कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रये यथा ऋषिकेशखलेन देवकी कंसेन रुद्धाति चिरं शुचार्पिता विमोचिताहं च सहात्मजा विभो त्वयैव नाथेन मुहुर्विपद्गणात् विशान्महाग्ने पुरुषाददर्शनात् असत्सभाया वनवासकृच्छ्रथा वृधे मृधेनेकमहारथास्त्रतो द्रौण्यस्त्रतश्चास्म हरेभिरक्षिता विपदा सन्तुता शाश्वत तत्र तत्र जगद्गुरो भवतो दर्शनं यत् स्यात् अपुनर्भवदर्शनम् जन्मैश्वर्यश्रुतश्रीभिरेधमानमदः पुमान् नैवार्हति अभिधातुं वै त्वाम् अकिञ्चन गोचरम् नमो अकिञ्चन वित्ताय निवृत्ता गुणवृत्तये आत्मा रामाय शान्ताय कैवल्यापतये नमः मन्ये त्वां कालमीशानाम् अनादिनिधनं विभुं समं चरन्तं सर्वत्र भूतानां यन्मितः कली न वेद कश्चित् भगवं चिकीर्षितं तवेहमानस्य नृणां विडम्बनं न यस्य कश्चित् दयितोऽस्ति कर्हि चित् द्वेष्यस्य यस्मिन् विषमामति नृणाम् जन्म कर्म च विश्वात्मन् अजस्या कर्तुरात्मना तिर्यन्वीशिषुयादश्रु तदत्यन्ता विडम्बनम् गोप्या ददे त्वयि कृतागसिदाम तावत् या ते दशाश्रुखलिलाञ्जनसम्भ्रमाक्षम् वक्त्रं निनीय भयभावनया स्थितस्य सा मां विमोहयतिभिरपि यद्भिभेति केचिदाहुरजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यतो प्रियस्वान्ववाये मलयस्येव चन्दनम् अपरे वसुदेवोऽभ्यगात् अजस्त्वम् अस्य क्षेमाय वधाय च सुरद्विषां धारावरणेनात्मभुवात्थितः भवेस्मिन् क्लिश्यमानानाम् अविद्या कामकर्मभिः श्रवणास्मरणार्हाणि हरिष्यन्निति केचन शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्त्यभीक्षणा स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तवेहितं जना तयेव पश्यन्त्यचिरेण तावकं भवप्रवाहो परमं पदाम्बुजम् अप्यद्यनस्त्वं स्वकृते हितप्रभो जिहाससि स्वेत्सुहृदोऽनुजीविना येषां न चान्यत् भवतः पदाम्बुजात् परायणं राजसुयोजितां हसम् केवयं नामरूपाभ्यां यदुभिः सह पाण्डवा भवतो दर्शनं यर्हि ऋषिकानाम् इवेशितुः नेयं सौभिष्यते तत्र यथेदानीं गदाधरा त्वत्पदैरङ्किता भाति स्वलक्षणविलक्षितैः इमे जनापदा स्रुद्धा सुपक्वौषधिविरुधः वनाद्रीनाद्युदन्वन्तो हेदन्ते तव वीक्षितैः अथा विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशम् इमं छिन्धि दृढं पाण्डिषु वृष्णिषु त्वयि मे अनन्यविषया मतिर्मधुपते सकृत् रतिम् उद्वहता दग्धा गङ्गे बौघमुदन्वती श्रीकृष्ण कृष्ण सकवृष्णिवृषभावनिधृक् राजन्यवंशदहनानपवर्गवीर्या गोविन्द गोद्विजसुरातिहरावतारा योगेश्वराखिल गुरो भगवन्नमस्ते. So those are the prayers of Queen Kunti. Very elevated and very beautiful prayers. We have heard elaborate descriptions from all our devotees on that section. So after those prayers, Krishna just smiles. Namipriya Mataji was sharing it yesterday. That beautiful smile, which is uncomparable to anything. And after that, he is, Queen Kunti was requesting him, please stay back, and she's giving all these reasons why he has to stay. But still, he was ready to leave, and he was informing all the ladies of the Hastinapura palace and everybody, and ready to leave the third time actually. The first time when he was about to leave, Uttara comes, Krishna, Krishna, please save me. And then, I'm sorry, I think, yeah. Yeah, Uttara stops first time because Ashwadama was releasing the Brahmastra to kill the child in the womb, who is none other than Maharaj Parikshit. And then he comes, and then Krishna actually goes inside the womb, and then he saves the child, and then he was ready to leave. And then Queen Kunti recites all these beautiful prayers and requests him, please stay back. And then he acknowledges those prayers, and he smiles at her, and then ready to leave. And then the third time, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes and says, please, not yet, please stay for some more time. And then Krishna actually stays. So we'll read the verses. This is text 46, chapter 8, prayers by Queen Kunti in the first canto. We'll read text 46. व्यासाद्य ईश्वरेहाग्नै कृष्णेनाद्भुतकर्मणा प्रबोधितोऽपीतिहासैर्नाबुध्यता शुचार्पिता. One more time. व्यासाद्य ईश्वरेहाग्नै कृष्णेनाद्भुतकर्मणा प्रबोधितोऽपीतिहासैर्नाबुध्यता शुचार्पिता. Translation. King Yudhishthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyasa and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence. Oh, I wanted to share the screen. Apparently, I forgot. Okay. So, word to word. Vyasadhyai, by great sages headed by Vyasa. Ishvara, the Almighty God. Iha, by the will of. Gnai, by the learned. Krishnena, by Krishna himself. Adbhuta Karmana, by one who performs all superhuman work. Prabodhita, being solaced. Api, although. Itihasai, by evidences from the histories. Na, not. Abudhyata, satisfied. Shucha Arpita, distressed. Translation. King Yudhishthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by the great sages headed by Vyasa and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence. Purport by
Hare
His.
Krishna Mataji, you're trying to share something on the screen. I don't see. I don't know if others are able to see.
Oh, okay. Share
Not
the.
able to see. Not able to see.
Oh, okay. That's fine then. I will wait. I don't know. It's showing that it's sharing for me. Okay. Yeah, so we'll read the purport. The pious king Yudhishthira was mortified because of the mass massacre of human beings in the battle of Kurukshetra, especially on his account. Duryodhana was there on the throne, and he was doing well in his administration, and in one sense there was no need of fighting. But on the principle of justice, Yudhishthira was to replace him. The whole clique of Politics centered around this point, and all the kings and residents of the whole world became involved in this fight between the rival brothers. Lord Krishna was also there on the side of King Yudhishthira. It is said in the Mahabharata Adi Parva 20 that 640 million men were killed in the 18 days of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and some hundreds of thousands were missing. Practically, this was the greatest battle in the world within 5,000 years. This mass killing simply to enthrone Maharaja Yudhishthira was too mortifying. So he tried to be convinced with evidences from histories by great sages like Vyasa and the Lord himself that the fight was just because the cause was just. But Maharaj Yudhishthira would not be satisfied, even though he was instructed by the great personalities of the time. Krishna is designated herein as the performer of superhuman actions. But in this particular instance, neither he nor Vyasa could convince King Yudhishthira. Does it mean that he failed to be a superhuman actor? No, certainly not. The interpretation is that the Lord, as Ishvara, or the supersoul in the hearts of both King Yudhishthira and Vyasa, performed still more superhuman action because the Lord desired it. As supersoul of King Yudhishthira, he did not allow the king to be convinced by the words of Vyasa and others, including himself, because he desired that the king hear instructions from the dying Bhishmadeva, who was another great devotee of the Lord. The Lord wanted that at the last stage of his material existence, the great warrior Bhishmadeva see him personally and see his beloved grandchildren, King Yudhishthira, etc., now situated on the throne and thus pass away very peacefully. Bhishmadeva was not at all satisfied to fight against the Pandavas, who were his beloved fatherless grandchildren. But the Kshatriyas are also very stern people, and therefore he was obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because he was maintained at the expense of Duryodhana. Besides this, the Lord also desired that King Yudhishthira be pacified by the words of Bhishmadeva so that the world could see that Bhishmadeva excelled all in knowledge, including the Lord himself. We will read the next verse also and then have one discussion. Text 47. Aharaja dharma sutar chintayan suhridam vadham prakritenatmana vipra snehamoha vasham gataha. King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak. Okay. King Yudhishthira, though he was not expected to become aggrieved like a common man, became deluded by worldly affection by the will of the Lord, just as Arjuna was apparently deluded. A man who sees knows well that the living entity is neither the body nor the mind, but is transcendental to the material conception of life. The common man thinks of violence and non-violence in terms of the body, but that is a kind of delusion. Everyone is duty bound according to one's occupational duties. A Kshatriya is bound to fight for the right cause, regardless of the opposite party. In such discharge of duty, one should not be disturbed by annihilation of the material body, which is only an external dress of the living soul. All this was perfectly known to Maharaj Yudhishthira, but by the will of the Lord, he became just like a common man, because there was another great idea behind this delusion. The king would be instructed by Bhishma, as Arjuna was instructed by the Lord himself. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome again for this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. These two verses, they're depicting Yudhishthira Maharaj's grievance and his kind of feeling very sorrow, and he's actually taking the responsibility that all this actually happened because of him. It's just for my only sake that I have to be on the throne. These many people have to kill. And I was just looking up this the amount of the people that died in Battle of Kurukshetra. It is said in Mahabharata Adi Parva that 640 million men were killed in 18 days of the battle. And Prabhupada actually writes, this was the greatest battle in the world within 5,000 years. I was just checking the statistics of the World War II, and it's mentioned 70 to 85 million, out of which I think 50 to 60 million were died in the battle itself. And then related to the battle, outside of the battle, another close to 15 to 20 million people. That happened. That battle lasted 6 years, 1 days. And that was about 70 to 85 million. I think that was the biggest, I mean, at least according to the modern history. But here we can see 640 million men in 18 days. So I was calculating roughly, it's like, about 50,000 people per every minute, if we consider like sunrise to sunset. They were fighting for these 18 days. It's a lot of massacre. I mean, just seeing, even like one death around us, it perturbs us so much. And here they are Pandavas, and practically, except for a few more people, just Pandavas were the only ones left from the battle. And everybody else, all these people who were involved, uh, and all the kings and residents of the whole world became involved in this fight between the rival brothers. So all of them were there, and I mean, we were hearing in Bhagavad Gita how they were all like related family members, friends, teachers, uncles, and all kinds of people, and they have that. Some of them very close familial relationship, and we can only imagine and understand the pain that they must be going through. And these are actually and the other reason also for them to feel like that, Prabhupada writes in a couple of the purports in Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna is not feeling this compassion. Just, I mean, in one sense, yes, it is like a common man. For a purpose, he's been put into that situation. But on the other hand, he is a great devotee, same thing with Yudhishthira Maharaj here. And such a great devotee, they have so much compassion in general for the living entities, even for those people who are not like, not at all related. We can actually see how Srila Prabhupada and his representatives, how much compassion they have. And irrespective of, whether people like me are willing to accept or not, sometimes I may say, okay, I'm comfortable in my zone, but still, they come and say, okay, this is not what it's going to help you, please become more serious. So this is what can give you the real peace and happiness. So such is the compassion of these great devotees. So that's also one reason why King Yudhishthira is feeling, and he's so selfless. I mean, the other people would have been like, okay, finally I got my throne, which anyway, it was just, the Prabhupada was saying, the fight was just because the cause was just. Even though here in the purport, Prabhupada is writing Dhritarashtra's thoughts that Duryodhana was there on the throne and he's ruling. So why do I have to go through this whole entire, battle so that so many people are killed? Just I have to be on the throne. What is the problem if Duryodhana continued to be there on the throne and just continued to rule? But we do understand what kind of a person Duryodhana is and how it would impact the whole society and the kingdom and their uh, character and practices to have such a person as a leader. So it is very much just that Yudhishthira was supposed to be on the throne for the greater justice and benefit of the whole entire world. He knows that. He actually fought that, but in spite of that, he was feeling this. That is one part of it. And the next one, which is actually the most critical of these two verses, is he's feeling these feelings, but he's not being convinced or pacified by all these great sages trying to pacify him, including Krishna himself. And first thing is, he himself knows all this knowledge about the spiritual and material. And I think Krishna talks to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, why are you behaving like this non-Aryan? Where is this kind of thing coming into your heart? So Aryan means one who knows the goal of life, and they very much are aware of this. We can see throughout their life Pandavas, their character, their righteousness, their virtuous behavior. We can see all that. In spite of that, he is feeling this. That is the first thing. And then, second, all these great sages, they're trying to tell him it is actually just, you don't have to feel like this. It's not, your personal responsibility, and you're not going to get sinful reactions by fighting such kind of aggressors. But still he could not be satisfied. And then Krishna himself tried to pacify him. And this point we can try to understand here. In the case of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was in similar kind of delusion before the battle, and he expressed that. And then when Krishna shared Bhagavad Gita, then Arjuna was pacified, and he was ready to fight the battle. But here in this case, Yudhishthira Maharaj was not pacified even when Krishna says. And Prabhupada beautifully explains here. The verse itself, Shukadeva Goswami is telling, Krishnena Adbhuta Karmana. It specifically mentioned he is the performer of superhuman feats. And how come such a superhuman performer, how can he not pacify, just some grief of a common man? It seems like a contradicting, particularly that, that description of Krishna in this verse. I was thinking while reading, why is it mentioned? Like, I mean, they could just say, okay, Krishna is there or something. But they were specifically mentioned, he is a superhuman feats performer. So Prabhupada writes here, um, yeah, does it mean that he failed to be a superhuman actor? No, certainly not. So it's not only from the external appearance or his instructions, but with that, uh, we can understand that superhuman act as his inspiration from Yudhishthira Maharaj's heart. It's not only from outside, but as a super soul within the heart of Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was actually inspired him not to be convinced with himself, with the sharings of Vyasadeva and all other sages and himself. So that is the meaning of this Adbhuta Karmana here. Why is he doing that? I mean, Krishna is all knowing and Krishna is all powerful and everything. But in spite of that, how come someone is not convinced when Krishna himself says? So this is something which we may not be able to understand if we try to read with, typical logic. I was trying to see, okay, it has to flow like, just this way. Why is it like this? I mean, same thing with Bhishma Dev fighting on the Duryodhana party. Like, he is such a great devotee, why he has to fight on that side? So in Krishna's pastimes, these things are arranged for a purpose. He has uh, Krishna is capable of performing multiple actions with one thing. So here, he is actually doing that. One thing is uh, showing Yudhishthir Maharaj's heart, how compassionate he is. And the second thing is his own superhuman actions by inspiring him not to be convinced in spite of uh, trying by all these great personalities. And the third thing, he wanted to glorify Bhishma Dev. So he's like performing these multiple actions with just one thing. And why he wants to glorify Bhishma Dev, it's actually a nice description, the whole entire thing, how to understand Bhishma Dev's position and what he's doing. Because one way we hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the prayers are coming in the ninth chapter, how elevated he is. I mean, he kind of completely knows. And even as a personal relationship, he's actually very affectionate to the Pandavas. He actually took care of them right from their childhood, when Pandu Maharaj died. Since that time, because these kids are young and Kunti Maharani is with all these five kids, he was taking care of them so nicely. And he also knows about their character, and in a way he actually wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to be king. But in spite of that, he actually took the side of Kauravas, and he was fighting in the battle. So we may wonder, what is this? I mean, does his, that thought process of being a devotee, kind of what happened to that? So we can understand that is happened for a purpose. So it's explained by the acharyas that when um, this Kuru assembly, Draupadi's Dushasana was trying to disrobe Draupadi and humiliate her. Bhishma Dev did not do anything. He did not even say anything. If he would have stopped them, they could have actually stopped that act. So Krishna wanted to teach all of us what will happen, even if you're such an elevated person as Bhishma Dev. If you don't protect the women, you're going to be distracted. So that is why um, it's actually showing through his example that that is the result of it. So he has to fight on the side of Kauravas, and he has to face his death in this way in the battle. So we can understand, okay, that's how Bhishma Dev is. But then we may actually go to the other side and say, oh, you know what, Bhishma Dev is like this. He may be a devotee, but he actually did not protect Draupadi, and he fought on the Kaurava side. So we may have some kind of, question on his devotion. So then Krishna wanted to bring this thing again, that how elevated he is. He is actually one of the 12 Mahajanas. So he wanted to have this glorification of Bhishma Dev in such a way that this last sentence of this purport says, the Lord also desired that King Yudhishthira be pacified by the words of Bhishma Dev, so that the world could see that Bhishma Dev excelled all in knowledge, including the Lord himself. I mean, we understand Krishna is all knowledgeable, no one can exceed him in knowledge. But here he actually wanted to show this. So that's the Lord's mercy. It's kind of extreme mercy of him that he is ready to put himself down in order to glorify his devotees. The same thing we see in when he broke the vow against when Arjuna and Bhishma was fighting in order to save Arjuna. He was even ready to break his vow. So he doesn't care so much for himself when it comes to his affection and protection for the devotees. So this is something we can all I mean, I'm personally thinking to meditate on this further, and then really see, am I performing my devotional practices in that way? Really trying to understand Lord's mercy and take the shelter at the right place instead of taking in all kinds of other material places. So, and the next verse actually talks about this further, how King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, so that's actually mentioned here specifically that he is the son of Dharmaraja, who is again another Mahajan. So, being a son of such an elevated personality, he actually should know everything and he should not feel like a common man. And it says common materialistic man, why he has to be aggrieved. We just discussed what is the purpose of that. And also, we can understand here. Yeah, to become aggrieved like a common man, became deluded by worldly affection by the will of the Lord. So, this kind of dissatisfaction and this kind of delusion we see in Arjuna's case on the battlefield just before the battle was about to begin. And Arjuna was like, you know what, I can't even fight. I mean, he lists out all his reasons and he says, I cannot fight. And if we one way see, yes, it shows his most soft and compassionate heart. But on the other hand, it feels like just one of us. I mean, just like, okay, I just don't want to do this because this will cause some other result than what we wanted. And in that confusion he was expressing, it's most of us actually feel that it's so practical for all of us to relate this particular instance. And same thing with Yudhishthir Maharaj here. He is actually expressing the similar kind of dissatisfaction and that delusion. And I was also remembering this Vyasadeva's example after compiling the whole entire Vedic literature. He was feeling dissatisfied. And I remember Shatarupa Mataji mentioning this satisfaction. We have to understand that that feeling is there and then be able to express that. So that is something we can take it very practically from these verses and from all these things. Of course, in a way, their dissatisfaction is not like ours. I mean, ours, it may only take us further down from, our practices. But their dissatisfaction, each of them, I mean, Arjuna's dissatisfaction, that led to Bhagavad Gita. And Vyasadeva's, we know that's the whole, the situation for Srimad Bhagavatam to appear. And here, Yudhishthira Maharaj feeling this way is to receive the instructions of his most beautiful and very elevated instructions from Bhishma Dev. So it is actually for a purpose, their dissatisfaction. But on the other hand, what we can take it is when we go through such kind of feelings, we can actually understand and then express them at a proper place to really be uplifted from that feelings. So I was just thinking, for me, when it happens, either I chuck those feelings under the rug and say, okay, no, 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 I'm not supposed to feel like that. Um, I'm already practicing for whatever few years. So I'm supposed to be knowing all this knowledge. So I'm not supposed to feel all those feelings. We are seeing these examples. I mean, Yudhishthir Maharaj and Arjuna and Vyasadeva, what to speak of anybody else. And I remember Shatarupa Mataji mentioning this. He is actually compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam. He could have omitted this section, saying, okay, what would people think of me if I have this kind of dissatisfaction? So I'll just skip that section because he's the one who is compiling. He doesn't really have to put that section in a way. But it's actually to show all of us that example that it's not that we have to, when we have those feelings, we have to, just uh, ignore them and say, okay, I'm so and so, whatever these feelings, I don't care about them. No, we have to act according to our realization and then acknowledge those feelings. And then the next step is when we express at a place of, this is where I was feeling, for Arjuna or Vyasadeva, they're very fortunate to have these kind of relationships where they can confidentially share their hearts completely open, I mean, without being judged. And so that is something we all can take example in our own lives to have such kind of relationships, confidential and loving, where we can open our hearts. I mean, whatever it is, we don't have to hide them and act as somebody else. We can be genuine and share those feelings. And that can actually be a turning point for us to go past them or to address those feelings in a very healthy way. Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, the rest of the purport, that's what is described. Yeah, again, it says Bhishma Dev has to instruct the Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that was the intent behind it. But it's also for us to understand how, when we are in that kind of association, how we can address these feelings in a proper and healthy way. I think that's all I have. Any of you, please share your further thoughts on these verses. Correct me if I have shared anything that's not proper. Any sharings, reflections? Okay, if we don't have anything, we can stop here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandal Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for elaborating very nicely the purport. The only thing is, I was wondering, of course, when I speak something, I don't speak much on Bhagavatam anyway, right? So, so I have a few thoughts. Where there are so many people dying in the battlefield of coronavirus nowadays. And then recently in my native place, who are all very close to me, one after other is passing away. That means they're all, past few days I'm hearing a lot, and my very close friend passed away. So it's like, I was just relating, in this battle, 642 million people died for, establishing the dharma. And then people are aggrieved, and there is a grief, and so on, so forth. And even Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, for his own thinking, why just for me coming to the becoming a king, is this really required? But as you said, Krishna had a plan to make this happen. It's 642 million is not an easy number. I don't know. It's very difficult to understand. Just to establish, for the Yudhishthira to come to a king, based on basically what does that mean is establish dharma. But now the corona virus has come, which is also killing many. And even in India alone, has 100,000 people died. So see this kind of battle going on, and so many people in grief. I don't know whether it is again establishing the dharma. I feel yes, because people are getting slowly, they are seeing one by one going to the crematorium. And I was thinking, it's kind of a smashana vairagya right now, because, oh my God, one is everything is going, everybody is going, we don't know who is the next. At least we should be thinking about God. Just to understand the situation, how do we how do we really feel? Is that really true? Krishna is doing something, or is it just a smashana vairagya to establish dharma? I don't know whether I'm asking this question properly. It's not a question, but just a comment. How to understand the situation of is this really establishing dharma, or is this the way people are getting into the sinful reactions of the past karma? Or is because the end of the day is the Krishna's arrangement anyway, right? So it's difficult, very, very difficult to digest, because since my close friend passed away, everything is really poking my heart. That's all. I don't know if you can, is there any words to say about this, Mathaji?
Yeah, I understand, Prabhu. It's definitely not easy seeing, and we're not even so realized. I mean, we have that knowledge, but we don't have so much of realization. So definitely it's not easy. Um, I would request if any other devotees would like to share. I have been speaking.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Like Balaram Prasad Prabhu is saying, there's a lot of people who are actually leaving. And whether it is Corona or something else, I mean, one of my roommates or batchmates died also 2-3 days ago. So not because of COVID, but because of other health issues. But something that, I mean, it's definitely a point of grief. But something that I was thinking when Prabhu was saying is that it's just my thought. I don't have any reference. So this Kurukshetra war is not a chosen war in one sense. It's like Krishna really tried. Pandavas also really tried to not fight, even though they were almost assaulted and battered, and there's so much happened in their life. But they didn't choose, and Krishna didn't choose. But at a point when it was just totally unavoidable, and then Duryodhana invited them, and they had to fight that kind of a situation. And then, so it is almost like Krishna's, we can say Krishna's arrangement, but it is more like Krishna's sanction. It's not like his desire to, So yeah, in one sense, yes, it is Krishna's arrangement that that miscreants be annihilated. That's one of the purposes he appeared. So collectively all the miscreants came in one place and then they annihilated themselves. But the point that I was thinking about today's world is I don't think anyone is, not everyone is striving for dharma, or not. The war was for Sanatan Dharma, that one, but now what's happening is almost like we are reaping the, each of us reaping the fruits of our karma. Whatever we accrued, we are getting it now. It's like that, what is that big gallon of rice, old rice, new rice, everything gets added, and whenever you open, whatever is on the bottom comes. So it may be old, new, or fresh, or whatever. So this one I was thinking is not Krishna's arrangement, but it is Krishna's sanction. Because Krishna doesn't want anybody to go through karma in one sense. That's why he stops us from coming from there. But we are here, and so he's sanctioning, because without a sanction we can't even experience our karma. We'll be stuck in a position of it's like somebody is dying but they're not able to die because there is no sanction. It's almost like that. I don't know, that these are my thoughts, that this is like this diseases and all that is happening as part of karmic fruit rather than Krishna's arrangement. But because the universal affairs are under his sanction, he has to sanction against his will sometimes. Is my understanding correct? I'm just sharing. Can you share something?
I was thinking, Mataji, I don't know whether it's karmic again, because if I look at, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and then many devotees, and then recently in one of the sannyasi disciples of Radhanath Maharaj, he is also very serious. It's very difficult to digest whether it is a karmic reaction or is it something else. So that's why I was wondering whether is it really Krishna's arrangement, maybe Krishna's sanction, maybe Krishna's, we don't know what it is. Whether it is a devotee or a non-devotee, no matter what corona is coming, right? So it's basically, it's not, as you said, it may not be an arrangement, but it's a will, it's just a time factor, just the cause. Okay, anyway, a person has to leave the body, but it's just the cause, and it's very difficult to understand. I don't know how to explain this anyway.
One thought, Prabhu, further thought, I'm sorry, it's becoming a conversation now pretty much. One further thought that's coming is whether it is Krishna's arrangement or Krishna's sanction depends on the consciousness of the person, right? So Bhakti Chara Maharaj, we cannot say it is karma because he is a pure devotee. So it is Krishna's arrangement and his desire, and their both desires got together. We don't know. I mean, Vaishnava's heart and wills we cannot understand. But if we say somebody who is not connected to the disciplic succession, then or we haven't really sufficiently become purified, then there is karma in action, right? Anyway, I think I will stop here. I don't want to take over. Amrita-keli Mataji, please help us. You are the final.
No, Mataji, thank you so much for sharing. I was also thinking about it in terms of karma. I was reading Bhagavad Gita with these new people, and these are the thoughts, and we cannot obviously tell, and especially when they're losing their family members, we cannot go and say it's. I mean, it is karma, but at the same time, it feels a little hard when we share. So I really appreciate this point, Mathur. It's not that Krishna wants us to suffer or go through this. He's actually trying so much. I mean, just we can see, uh, even though we are actually going through that, the kind of, the ability to have the strength or thought process, it is definitely painful. It's not easy. But having that strength to go through and having this association to discuss, that's where my thoughts are going to Balaram Prasad Prabhu. I mean, Corona is one thing, and definitely we have seen, devotees' personal lives, what kind of challenges they're going through. It's definitely not easy. But Prabhu, as you're mentioning, people definitely, we could call Shmashana Vairagya, but at least some kind of awareness, at least some of that, this is not all in all. One of the Mataji was sharing, she has been asking her father to chant for the last 4 or 5 years. And he's like, okay, you guys chant, that's okay, kind of, he's just postponing. He was diagnosed with COVID, but thankfully he survived through. And then she was sharing, she didn't even ask, but he started chanting 8 rounds, and she asked, like, what happened, why are you chanting? He said, now I understood, this is not all in all, and anytime this can be taken away. So at least, we are getting that awareness, whether losing the family members, or I mean, either devotees or non-devotees for that matter. And my appreciation is going, Prabhu, even though it is, at this moment, it may not sustain for a long time, but at least when we are turning to God, at least by these these kind of situations, I think it's still beneficial. We are still able to get that, and who knows, this efforts actually, I'm thinking, for all of us having this everyday morning Bhagavatam discussions, or the additional devotional activities and practices that we are doing, this can actually give us a strength which wouldn't have been the case. I mean, yeah, that's where my thoughts are going. Yeah.
Yes, Madhvi, thank you. I was also thinking, one is the divine energy. Of course, metal energy is also divine, but metal energy is showing us, if you don't accept Krishna, when a devotee comes and say chant Hare Krishna, and if you don't, then Krishna has to send the metal energy for your for his her influence, to make sure that you're taking Krishna consciousness. I don't know how to say that, but it's another way of showing us, at least, just chant, at least. Uh, think about Krishna, think about God. Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. So when just the other thought I was thinking, as we can see from these two verses itself, when Krishna does something that Yudhishthira Maharaj could not be pacified with Krishna himself, we cannot really understand in one way, this Purana could be one of such things. I mean, he may have multiple purposes to accomplish through that by sanctioning or arranging for some other cases. He may have, so many purposes to be accomplished by just this one act. I guess it is, I mean, at least for me, I don't think I have capacity to understand really what is it. But definitely when we discuss this way, it helps us to think through the right way. And I won't be just stuck there thinking, why? What can I do in this situation, and how can I move forward in this? Sandhya Mataji, I think
Hare,
you've been wanting to.
Hare,
Sorry.
Hare Krishna. This was, you exactly said that same thing now, Mataji. I was thinking when you said, I mean, it was in the purport that the fact that Yudhishthira Maharaj could not be pacified by Krishna, there was some purpose in it. So he is influencing, I mean, there is nothing which is happening without the knowledge or the sanction of Krishna. From that we can say there is something that is going to unfold in the future that he knows about, we don't know about. So even in the case of Kurukshetra war, he himself was the peace messenger. But everything has a course which is we call destiny, but actually it is providence, that is actually Krishna, right? So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Shri Vallabha Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for that wonderful class. And the question, Balram Prasad Prabhu, I think is an excellent question, very valid question, and I know where you're coming from. I completely agree with what Sethu Mataji just mentioned, as well as Amrita-keli Mataji. It's not for us to judge. Ruchira and I were, having a similar discussion today and even yesterday. As we were listening to Vaisheshika Prabhu's, class session with the children. It's not for us to judge whether it is sanctioned or otherwise. The example that came about during that session was about how, devotees were traveling on a boat across the seas, or disciples, I should say, with people, with Jesus. And as they were making their way, the waves became higher, and the storm started setting in, and they were at a point where they felt like the whole boat was going to be tipping over. And they were thinking, they were asking, why is it this is happening? We thought, Jesus, you're here with us, it shouldn't be happening to us. Why is this happening? They were completely in a state of panic. And Jesus replied, saying that, just because, I'm here doesn't mean I never said, I've never said that calamities will not happen just because I'm here. All you need to know is that I'm here with you. So I think if we relate that to what we're going through in our lives, rather than asking the why, it is very important to understand and have complete faith that Krishna is with us. As long as we have that faith that Krishna is with us, because death is inevitable and death can come in so many different ways, as we've seen through our years with the experiences that we've had across the world, across our families and friends, and close partners as well. Death can come in many, many, many ways. It's inevitable. Does that mean that Krishna is not with us? Does that mean Krishna is not with them? Krishna is offering, he's not offering, he's giving us his word, he's giving us his protection, and having that faith that he is with us always in life and beyond is something that we need to inculcate. That is what we need to nurture.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's actually the thanks for all the devotees. Even I may know the answer, but it's a good thing to clarify and discuss this morning with all the devotees. It was wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
It's never easy, Prabhu. It's never easy, obviously, because of the attachments that we have, and being in this material world, obviously, we're not in a situation where we can fully understand. And even if we do understand, be able to relate to it in a way that we can actually transcend. Unless we have, that complete faith, and our faith is just purifying, right? We are mixed devotees at best. So it's only going to get better as we continue to apply ourselves, which leads me to the next question that I have, Amrita-keli Mataji, and to all the devotees on the call. See, we are all Nitya Baddhas, and Amrita-keli Mataji, you were talking about the transformation point, right? That resonated a lot with me. Being able to share our problems, our challenges in confidence. And when we do that, like Yudhishthira Maharaj did, like Arjuna did, like Vyasadeva did, and it was a complete transformation point, or a turning point, as you said. So for that transformation to happen for us, we are Nitya Baddhas. We are in this material world. There's the constant fear that we may be judged, number one. Two, we don't see the complete transformation like it happened to Arjuna on the battlefield, for instance. So how are we to explain that? And one of the things that comes to my mind, at least from my experience, and again, this is very limited realization, my apologies, but I believe that this transformation, being Nityabaddhas that we are, and being this material world, um, it's at best a journey. It doesn't happen. It's not a point in time, but it is a journey. But that again depends on how we endeavor, and that mercy and endeavor that happen together. That is what will take us through, and that is the faith that we need to keep nurturing. That will take us through. So it kind of is related to what Balaram Prasad Prabhu was asking. But I would like to hear from you also, and everyone else on the call to see, what is it? I mean, do you feel the same way, that it's a journey and not a turning point per se?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That's such a reflective and introspective space it's coming from. Thank you for sharing on this phone. It's 8:06, but it's a important point. So if devotees here, okay, we can take a little more time today, Sunday. Prabhu, I don't think I have so much realization, and especially, in front of all of you, I don't think I have any qualification to speak, but just hearing from all of you and having this inspiration, just keep going with all of your association. I agree with you, Prabhu. There are times, we feel this. I remember Lingaraj Prabhu was asking this question when we were, reading this Narada's pastime. He, it's not instantaneous. He had to, go through the sadhana process and everything. But we see such kind of transformation in Guru Maharaj case. How come we are like, few years, and we feel we are just there as you're expressing. But I'm actually feeling, Prabhu, there is the turning point. I don't know. I feel like, yes, it is a journey, but still, at least if each of us introspect and look back at our lives, where we were before we even met the devotees, and how the life transformed, we may be seeing these, elevated personalities, and definitely we feel like, I mean, what is it transforming my life? Seems same. But I guess that's what I'm actually cultivating for my own self, because my mind keeps on going and says, okay, you know what, you have all these anarthas and you're like such a useless fellow. There's no point for you to, continue this devotion process. Stop it. Don't chant. It's not working for you. So, very consciously, I have been trying this to meditate on, like, what are the ways that Krishna's mercy and Guru's mercy and the association is actually impacting me? What are those things in the heart which I was struggling, which I can say I have come a little way. I mean, I still have a long way to go, but what are those things? So when we are able to see that, I think, I mean, at least for me, I can pacify the mind and says, you know what, it's working. At least I'm coming to be aware of these things, if not free from all of them now. So I was feeling, Prabhu, that's actually a turning point in our life, that we have actually turned to Krishna. And there is definitely that element of faith in each of us. I mean, each of us can feel that. Yes, it is there. I may not be, at that point say, okay, I'm transcending all these material duties or whatever, but at least that faith is there for us to continue and constantly be in this association and to reach this goal. So, for me, that's actually a turning point, Prabhu. But as you said, yes, it is a journey, and it's really depends on Krishna. I was really it's very heart touching for me to hear your sharing about, the calamities will come, and other times maybe things will be favorable. Things keep changing up and down. But through all this, we have Krishna in our life. Not only we have Krishna in our life, but we have this awareness that Krishna is in our life. For non-devotees, they're not even aware. I mean, Krishna is there in their lives also. But we are very fortunate to have, our spiritual masters and mentors, and all the devotees who are, constantly reminding us we have Krishna in our life. So just that awareness, and that itself can, change the course, the way we see things, the way we understand, and the way, we keep moving on this path.
Thank you so much, Mataji. That was wonderful. I totally agree. In fact, it's the turning point, as you said, that brings us to a point where we're looking at Krishna and accepting Krishna in our lives, and then from there on, we are making that journey. And Ruchira was just, sharing her realization alongside with what you were saying. It is, looking back in introspect to see where we were and where we are today, and how we've come so far, even though it may look like it's minuscule, it's a big transformation in itself. So thank you again for that. I completely agree. And I'll tell you, honestly speaking, Nityananda Pran and I have had conversations around this. And, his reflection was also, we should stand in front of our spiritual master, opening our hearts and sharing these things, the anarthas, the challenges that we have in a very naked, very honest manner. All right. There is nothing to be afraid of, being afraid of being judged or anything by a spiritual master, for instance, right? I mean, that's where it should start. And of course, in confidence with devotees, as the six loving exchanges explain. And I've done that. I've actually, stood practically, I mean, I should say literally naked, opening my heart to Guru Maharaj and sharing some of the things where I've been struggling with, and it's definitely made a difference. And Guru Maharaj's mercy is definitely flowing. I can feel it. It's just I haven't been applying myself as much as I should be, and I sometimes wonder. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's weaker. But like you said, we should continue to be aware that Krishna is there in our lives. We're not alone, and we should continue to endeavor to get to a point where we can aspire to achieve that that point of perfection. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's 8:12, but if anyone else have any group sharing. Okay. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Balram Prasad Prabhu, for letting us go deeper into these thoughts and applying practically. Your discussion has prompted all of us to improve. Thank you all the devotees for joining and participating. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much. Panchakalpatarubhyascha कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।